Welcome in everybody to the Falls Count Anywhere podcast. Today's edition here on October the 8th of 2022. I am on location here in Raleigh, North Carolina, so I am not in the Falls with the rest of the gentlemen here, which is Chris DiCarlo and John Restino. Gentlemen, how's it going today? I know I'm warmer than you guys. You guys are in Niagara Falls. I'm down here in North Carolina, so I know I'm getting a little bit better than you guys are, right?
Yeah, a little chilly,
Yeah.
but it's that
That's
time of
great.
year, right?
Bundle up. But we do have a guest joining us from Florida today. Chris, go ahead and give this gentleman the proper introduction.
Yes, indeed. It is my privilege and honor to have our guest join us today. Well-known guest, a former regional champion throughout the Mid-South, Florida, Georgia, all over. Known as one half of the Killer Bees, but as such a tremendous pro wrestling career, Mr. B.Brian Blair. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Chris. It's a pleasure to be on Falls Count Anywhere. Look forward to some great fun.
Yeah, actually, Mr. Blair,
real quick.
I was up till 1:30 last night, knowing that I had to get up after 8. But I was watching your classic footage from Georgia and championship wrestling from Florida. Next thing I know, it was 1:30 in the morning. I said, I better go to bed.
Wow. I get wrapped up in some of that old stuff too. And it's, I love old school. I really do. And it's just the business has evolved so much to where, it's so scripted. And I mean, nothing against the athletes. There's great athletes. And it's just, I liked it a lot better when we went into the ring and the only thing you knew was the finish. And because every crowd's different, whether you're in Tampa, Toledo, Tupelo, it doesn't matter. Every crowd's different, and you can't have a cookie cutter match. You can't have it just, everything flowed better back then. And, I've wrestled both ways, and I've had scripts. Fortunately, I'm a dying breed, guys. I'm 65 years old, and I've been fortunate enough, though, to have started in almost 1978, and wrestled all the way through 2019. So I got to see, every aspect of the business and watch it evolve. And it's very, very interesting. And I look forward to your questions.
Yeah, and it's like real quick, guys. Sorry. But with the internet, that's the thing. Back in the day, we used to love watching every Saturday, wait until next week. And now with the internet, it kind of ruins that.
Yeah. It started out really Dave Meltzer when he started the dirt sheets. I remember I used to subscribe to those like in the early 80s. And some of the other wrestlers would get peed at me for it's like, hey man, that's breaking kayfabe, But I saw where the business was going back then, and that was before the internet. And once the internet got in, you just saw it burst wide open. So there's great podcasts like yours, and like Falls Count Anywhere, and there's so many places that want you to come on now, and fans are so eager to hear about the territory days. And we just started filming, we just finished filming, it's actually started now, the Vice series on the territories.
Yeah,
so I think the Florida episode's coming up soon. You might want to watch out.
Yeah, actually, premiere episode last week was fantastic. Just started Tuesday, and man, the stories just right off the bat from Memphis was fantastic. There was somebody losing an eyeball at one point. There was street razors being brought to the ring. It was chaos. And Brian, what I wanted to ask you, as far as like your come up into professional wrestling, and I noticed as I was reading some of your background, and it's very common. It seems like whether it was more common back then than it is now, but a lot of football backgrounds transition to wrestling. Where did that transition for you? Was it right during college, right after college, and then who kind of got you started in professional wrestling as far as training and all that?
That's a good question, Charlie. I really, I enjoyed football. It was great, but I wrestled the whole time. As a matter of fact, I still have the record for the most varsity letters at Tampa Bay Tech High School in Tampa. because my parents were divorced when I was young, and sports were my outlet. And then I started watching wrestling on television on WTOG Channel 44. Gordon Soley was a commentator, and Jack Briscoe was an amateur wrestler. And one time I was walking through this Zayre shopping center when we had moved from Gary, Indiana to Florida when I was 10 and a half years old. And I was probably 13 at this time. And my parents were going through some tough stuff. And I used to go to this like shopping center called Zayre's. And I walked in and I saw Jack Briscoe. And I was freaked out. I saw him. I said, I can't believe this is Jack Briscoe. Oh my gosh. So I started following him. I followed him around the aisles, and I followed him. And all of a sudden I lost him, and I was looking for him and looking for him and looking for him. And all of a sudden somebody tapped me on the shoulder, and he went, boo. And I went, ah. And little did I know that he was going to turn out to be one of my best friends in the whole world. I mean, it was just amazing. So between Jack and Buddy Colt played a tremendous influence because, you know, I lived with my mom when my parents were divorced, and I love my mom and dad. They're both alive, thank God, and they get along great. But my mom lives in my guest house because she used to send me $10 when they took away our laundry check to Louisville, but that's another story. But anyway, Jack Briscoe, Buddy Colt, Hiro Matsuda was the enforcer, but they used to come. Eddie Graham really loved amateur wrestling, and he started the boys and girls sheriff youth ranch clubs here in Florida, which are really, really big right now. And he used to go to dual meets and stuff, amateur dual meets. And I was fortunate to be on Channel 13, Andy Hardy, because of my athleticism and the story how, you know, I was living on my own when I was right before my 16th birthday. And it was kind of a human interest story. Eddie Graham saw that, came to one of my dual meets. I met Steve Kern, met formerly Jack Briscoe, and that was very awkward. And Gerald Briscoe, Mike Graham. It was very interesting, and they kind of pursued athletes. And so anyway, Eddie said, you know, hey, maybe sometime you can try professional wrestling. And that was the beginning of the real hook. And even though I went to college, played football, I was never a superstar on the field. I was too busy imagining being a professional wrestler. And it was like my fantasy, because when I was a kid, I used to pray to be Superman and silly things, you know. Some kid told me, you can't be Superman. He lives on television, and, you know, he leaps buildings with a single bound and has a costume and this and that. Well, be careful what you pray for. My costume might not have been the same, but I could leapfrog a man with a single bound, you know, run the ropes like a speeding bullet, have a 300-pound man jump on me, and live to talk to you guys on Falls Count anywhere.
That's great.
Yeah, such a great career. Like I said, throughout, I watched you on, of course, Championship Wrestling from Florida, but before that, you were on Georgia in 81 and 83, and of course, down in the Mid-South with Cowboy Bill Watts' territory. Yes. So I got all your history. Like I said, you know, I've been a fan since 1980, and
wow.
Just
Chris is our human vault over here of knowledge. Yeah.
I love it.
Old school pro wrestling has been my life. And in fact, I was just talking to Brian Ferguson, who we're going to have on next week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of stuff here, but go ahead, guys.
Well,
well, Brian, what I wanted to ask you, you know, from the start of your career, I've realized too, some of her past interviews, not everything is 100% accurate on the internet. I mean, there's no surprise there, right? But
no.
But one thing I wanted to ask you about was when you first started and you went over to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and
yes.
You wrestled with Antonio Inoki, who just unfortunately recently passed away. Inoki, yes, sir, and recently just passed away. But you got a chance. Oh, there he is, there, the legend, yes, sir.
Yes.
What was that New Japan experience and meeting him, and did you learn a lot from over there?
Oh yeah, I spent over a year of my life there. Golly, I lost count, over 20 tours there. I just loved Japan. Working with Inoki, he was such a gentleman, and he was very serious, but he was always a gentleman. He loved working with me. I really appreciated that. As a matter of fact, at one time they turned me babyface in Japan because I couldn't see. I was raised so humbly. I couldn't see. They'd give you these beautiful bouquets of flowers. So like it didn't matter who you were with, Adrian Adonis, Dick Murdoch, Paul Orndorff, Big John Studd. They'd hit somebody with the flowers and run the girls off that gave you the flowers and all that. And I thought, that's cheap heat. I told them to save these flowers for me and bring them up to my room. I appreciate them. And so, they kind of like that. I guarantee you those bouquets of flowers cost a couple $100 a piece. We're talking the 80s, in the 90s. But Japan I've been everywhere from Okinawa, which is a southern island, to Hokkaido, the north island, and everywhere in between. And it was always fun, always a blast, lots of ribs. I mean, I wrote a book called Truth Be Told. If you ever you don't have to believe the internet. This is 100% truth. It's 5-star rated on Amazon. And it's got some fascinating stories. Everybody that has read this book nobody has even said one negative word about it. I think I got a comment that there was 2 typos, but I was really sick. I was very, very sick when I got osteomyelitis in my spine, and I'm still crippled, but I'm having another operation within the next few weeks here, as soon as my son's murder trial is over.
Oh boy.
So, we wish you the best there. Absolutely.
Life goes on. You got to just keep going. And, the fans, you guys are such an inspiration in my life. Every fan. Just got back from the Cauliflower Alley Club, which I'm so passionate about helping my fellow colleagues. And anybody that wants to join the Cauliflower Alley Club, the membership's getting ready to go up, but it's only $25 US for a 1-year membership, or $300 for a lifetime. And we all work for free. We're volunteers, and every bit of that money goes to help guys that made a living in the business, whether you're a cameraman, a referee, or a wrestler. And there's a lot of guys out there that need help. And we gave away over $187,000 just in the last 18 months to guys that have fallen on difficult financial times. And there's guys that made millions of dollars. We don't mention their names, but only the ones that, ask us to, like Mr. Wonderful, helped save his home, and Kamala helped save his home, because a lot of the guys didn't pay their state taxes. They get liens on their homes, things like that. Brickhouse Brown, we helped him with getting cancer treatment. And, fortunately, he lived 6 or 8 months longer than he was supposed to live, and got to come to the Cauliflower Alley Club reunion, which was a dream of his. And, so many others. Coco Beware. I love Coco. I've had a lot of fun with Coco, and what an athlete. But, guys happen to fall on difficult financial times once in a while, and disease, divorces, lack of insurance, lack of planning. And it's great to know that the Cauliflower Alley Club is there to pick them up during this time. And we don't loan them money, we give them money. And it's because of good people like our members that and our honorees that come each year to the reunions. We just had a very successful reunion in Las Vegas. But, I love doing stuff like that, but it's all because of the fans. Everybody could be, we'd all be nobodies without you, without the people that love wrestling. And I just thank everybody from the bottom of my heart so much.
We thank you guys for, my childhood was filled with wrestling, especially WWF wrestling, which I definitely want to talk about with you as well. And the Cauliflower Alley Club is an awesome thing because, wrestling, as you know, there's no union, there's no post-career like pension or anything. So that's a beautiful thing you guys do with helping guys, former wrestlers, with their lives and whatever struggles they're going through. But that's very commendable, and that's awesome. And Brian, what I wanted to ask you about. course, your
Mr.
WWF career. We'll get into that.
Mr. Blair beat
just
me
wanted
to
to
it. I
ask-
wanted him to promote that.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I appreciate
What was
it.
that? Oh, right. Yeah.
The book.
What I wanted to ask you about too, like your when you teamed up with Jumpin' Jim Brunzell, and I like to ask this because I ask this to anybody that's wrestled in tag teams. Did you prefer a tag team, being in a tag team, or did you prefer more of like a solo act, or did you like both?
I really liked both, Charlie. Jimmy and I are very close. I love Jimmy like a brother. I mean, I remember when we were in Sydney, Australia. Well, we were in Australia, but we just happened to be in the city of Sydney, and my grandfather and I were like peanut butter and jelly. And he died, and it hit me so hard there. And I was crying, and Jimmy just comforted me just like a brother. And then I'd see Jimmy sometimes just so sad on these tours. We'd be all over the world, and his kids were growing up, and people don't realize the sacrifices that the boys make sometimes. He's missing Jimmy and Jenny, his son and his daughters, like graduation from middle school, or these events that there's so many events, birthdays, graduations, all these milestones in children's lives. And so he was missing all these. And we worked one time 67 straight days in 5 different countries, and
Wow.
That was brutal. Greg the Hammer Valentine was on the same tour, and he said, I can't take this no more. And it was starting to become, almost infectious amongst the boys, because wrestling was so hot in, the 80s, and it just caught fire after WrestleMania 3 in 86. And, Vince was running sometimes 3 towns, and, the guys that were penciled in, you didn't get a day off hardly. So, it's very taxing on your body. I've had like 22 operations from the business, getting ready to have my 4th back surgery. I've had 6 knee operations. Finally, my right knee was replaced. 2 torn quads. I've got 300 stitches from all there to here, from just crazy stuff. And it's funny, Jimmy's had, I guess he had 2 hip replacements and 2 shoulder replacements now, but you get banged up, and we would wrestle a lot of big guys as the Killer Bees, King Kong Bundy. I'll never forget, Chris came up to us in New Jersey, King Kong Bundy, and he goes, I'll never forget, I've been holding this in. This was about 3 years ago. I don't know if Jim told this story when he was on with you, but we were in New Jersey, and Bundy came up to us and said, can I talk to you? Yeah. Guys, I'll never forget when Typhoon and I we had a title match the month after, or on the next show. I think it was about a month later, on Long Island, and you guys beat us right in the middle of the ring, and I was so peed. I was just so peed, and I've held this in for so long. Why didn't you guys do something about that? And Jimmy and I kind of looked at each other like, what are we going to do? I mean, they're going to tell us to go over, and we're going to say, no, we don't want to. I mean, come on, Chris. I mean, you got to roll with the flow. I mean, blame it on, Pat Patterson or George Scott or, Vince. I mean, we're just here for the ride, brother.
Yeah, right.
What was working for Vince McMahon like? What was that experience? Was he easy to interact with? Was he like all business all the time? What was that experience like with Vince McMahon?
He wasn't all business all the time. He was a lot of fun. Fortunately, Terry Bollea, Hulk Hogan, I used to sneak into the bar, a bar called The Other Place, and he played in a group called Ruckus. And Hulkster had his first match with me, actually. Because when we broke in, a question you alluded to earlier about how'd you break in, who broke you in? Well, Matsuda was the head stretcher, and we'd have to do 500 push-ups, 500 sit-ups in sets of 100, 500 Hindu squats, and then we'd wrestle until somebody still couldn't wrestle. Then they'd take you when you were so tired and they'd twist you in knots. And probably in the 3.5 summers I was there, between college and high school, I'd say at least 100 people came in. Most of them left without anything that they brought except for what they had on their body. And the only other two people that made it were Hogan and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. And I used to sell sodas in the Tampa Stadium. That was like my third job. And back then we didn't have the Rowdies, the Bucks, the Lightning. We just had University of Tampa football and pro wrestling. And I loved UT football. And number 40, Paul Orndorff, was a stud and a half. But anyway, you guys get me carried on. What was the question again?
No, just as far as like the tag team aspect of things, and teaming up with Jumpin' Jim. I mean,
so I loved. I always wrestled singles. I mean, when I went to Watts' territory, my first tag team partner was Lynn Denton, the grappler, and that was like my first territory out of the chute, from Florida, and then Kansas City. But single matches are great because you can control just about everything. It's tag team it's a lot of fun, and they both require a lot of psychology. When you want to do your job right, and your job, I always considered my job to be, whether there was 100 people or 50,000 people, to work as hard as I could and to make sure that the fans believed my match and were entertained by my match. And when you have just one other person to work with, the odds of you being successful are what, 50% more or 100% more, depending on how you do the math, versus 4 people in the ring. Because and even it's amazing how somebody outside the ring can ruin your match. I give you an example. We were in Madison Square Garden. We're wrestling Valentine and Beefcake for the titles. And it's a non-title match, but we're going over. The week before, we wrestled in Nassau Coliseum, and this guy, Professor Elliott, who was the timekeeper, was the timekeeper again in Madison Square Garden. Well, we did a 20-minute Broadway, 20-minute time limit in Nassau Coliseum. Now here we are, Madison Square Garden, sold out, have the people absolutely in an uproar. Brunsey finally leaps and makes that hot tag to me. I jumped in and boom, the people went bananas. And all of a sudden, Elliot starts hitting the bell because it was 20 minutes. He thought it was a 20-minute time limit, and he ruined the whole match. So, there's a lot of variables that can affect your match. It's amazing. So it's really a team effort. You need everybody on board. That's how important a timekeeper is. Just some people think, oh, that's a little job. Well, it should be, but it can mean the difference in having, just exactly what I described.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Brian, you're the tag team of the Killer Bees, for me as a fan, with the Heart Foundation, Demolition, the Powers of Pain. I mean, you guys are right there, the Rockers. But the one unfortunate thing is that you guys never had a tag team title run, and that drives me nuts when I look at the history. You guys are such a lovable tag team. Masks being switched and the switcheroo and all that stuff was great. Was that ever discussed, a title run under WWF?
Well, first, when I left New York in '84, Vince Sr. wanted me to come back and work for the Intercontinental title. Then I get a call from Hulk Hogan, from Terry, and he says, Brian, Vince wants you to, he's going to make a really elite tag team division. And there's a guy named Jumpin' Jim Brunzell. Have you ever heard of him? I said, yeah, I've heard of him. I don't know. And he said, well, I worked with him in AWA. He's a great guy. He's been working tag teams with Greg Gagne for a long time. And Vince and I thought you guys would be fantastic as a tag team. So, Jimmy and I wound up teaming up, but I made sure that we were going to get the titles before, I got that promise. I said, I'm not coming there and tag teaming and not getting the tag team titles and a chance to, run with this. No problem, no problem. Well, George Scott was the booker. I didn't know George Scott had fired Jim Brunzell. I didn't know that Jim had sued Vince and won. Jimmy and Jimmy's a wonderful human being, but he'll shoot with you. And I don't, he calls a spade, and he'll tell you if your breast's bad, if you got a hair sticking out of your nose, he doesn't care. And there were so many things that kind of went against us. And I'm not saying it's entirely Jimmy's fault, but he'd get heat so much with these guys. I remember when Vince brought the Killer B t-shirts out, and he was so excited.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and really didn't know what it was at first, because it's kind of strange design, but Vince was excited. So, oh, wow, those are awesome. Those are great. I love them all. Thank you, Vince. But Brunzy goes, what the hell is that? So, these little things kept adding up. And George, Scott, the booker, had a real animosity towards Jim. And we got to be the hottest tag team on the planet. And that's documented. When we were wrestling the Hart Foundation, we would literally be, if not the top rated match, within the top 3 rated matches on the Arbitron ratings during our segments, like on Saturday Night Main Event, Hart Foundation, things like that. But for some reason, it just they were going to turn us heel one time after the Survivor Series, when we won the Survivor Series. And we had to go to the UWF to win the World Tag Team titles, and Herb Abrams' promotion. And that was, it's a void in my life that still bothers me to this day, that we totally deserved, were promised three times the belts, 3 times. Even Bret Hart went to bat for us. And there was just, I don't know, I wasn't privy to the inside conversation, but for some reason, we didn't get the belts, but we made a lot of money and had a lot of success. And hey, we're here talking today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well,
one of the most legendary tag teams in wrestling in WWF history. It was just so fun to watch you guys. Chris, I know you got a question. You're ready to tee up here. I don't want to interrupt you, man, but we got to take a quick break. Okay. Brian, if you don't mind hanging with us, we got a quick 2-minute break to do. I want to ask you some questions. Chris has got one. WrestleMania 3, I want to ask you about a little bit as well, and all that stuff. So let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back in about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes.
Digits 988 can save a life. If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, 988 provides connection to free confidential support. There is hope. The Lifeline works. For 24/7 confidential support, just call, text, or chat 988.
Okay, welcome
Nice.
back, everybody, to Falls Count Anywhere podcast. We are here with Mr. B.Brian Blair, one half of the legendary tag team, the QBs. We got so many questions we still want to ask this gentleman. We want to thank you again, Mr. Blair, for joining us. Chris, did you have a question there for B.Brian Blair?
Yeah, well, first I definitely want to say, yeah, we always talked about it with Mr. Brunzell, but yeah, you guys should have had at least a run with the WWF tag team title. And such a great tag team, definitely deserving.
Thank you.
And also deserving of the WWE Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
In my opinion, so many people in there that don't belong in there. Of course,
agree.
I'm old school though. So anyway, Mr. Blair, I'd like to ask you, I don't know if you know or not, but of course, big fan of Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea. How come I saw him on Mid-South or no, Memphis and then Georgia 79. How come he wasn't so much on Championship Wrestling from Florida?
Well, what they did with Terry, they didn't know what to do with him. So they put a mask on him and called him the Super Destroyer at first.
Oh,
And they just started, misusing him. And he got frustrated, quit for a little bit, came back, went to Pensacola, finally found himself, and got a real break in the Rocky movie series, and as Thunder Lips, and we all remember that. And he's just always had so much talent and charisma. I never could understand why they took a good-looking guy with big muscles and long hair and put a mask on him. Well, in Florida, I mean, it made no sense to me other than the fact that they didn't want to expose him. And this is Eddie Graham, who was a master. Bill Watts learned. You ask Bill Watts, I just spoke with Bill Watts not long ago. He just got out of the hospital, but he's doing well, thank God. But Bill learned just about everything from Eddie Graham. He's a master psychologist. So I think Eddie said, we're going to make a lot of money with this guy someday. But Terry didn't see it by putting him in the mask, and hiding him until they could think of like a Hulk Hogan or Terry Boulder, or he went from different name to different name. But the Hulk Hogan is obviously what stuck. But I think that was Eddie's big picture. But a lot of events happened in between then, from not just the rise of WWF, but the fact that Eddie was going through some personal turmoil in his life, and the territory could have really used a Hulk Hogan, but by then he had gone off into the AWA and was making a lot of money, and he didn't want to go back to Florida.
I see. Also, real quick, Mr. Blair, I know you mentioned already Gordon Soley, so the dean of wrestling.
Yes.
We became friends with and have his son on the show, Gennard Soley, a great guy as well.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about Gordon on Georgia and Florida.
Well, Gordon really made the shows. He was so articulate, and some of his sayings are still Pier 6 Brawl, and Crimson Tide, just all the so long from the Sunshine State. Gordon was a wonderful, wonderful man. And I do a thing called Legends Lunch every quarter in Florida, in Tampa. And it's always the last Friday of the fourth month. So the last one was in July. The next one will be the last Friday of this month. And I got to start getting ready for that, by the way. And it's primarily wrestlers from the area. We probably have 60 wrestlers, and then whoever they invite. Doesn't matter who they invite. And we have a wonderful luncheon. It's a great time. Again, now here, second time I've lost what was the question again?
Oh, just talking about Gordon and that we're friends with his son, Gennard.
Yeah. So the first Legends lunch was to cheer Gordon up because he had throat cancer. And Jack Briscoe and myself and Buddy Colt, we took Gordon out and it became a great time. Then Luthez joined us, Charlie, Charlie Thez, Dottie Curtis, Don Curtis, and it started getting bigger and bigger. And Gerald Briscoe, and we all started meeting like every month. And this was back in 1999 we started, and it's just rolled on ever since and gotten bigger and better. So Gordon was a wonderful guy. I mean, I remember being with the people that I just mentioned at this bar in Newport Richey, which is over in Pinellas County towards the Gulf. And Gordon had a trach, and Gordon liked his vodka. And he actually poured the vodka down his trach. And I had never seen anything like that in my life. It freaked me out. And
Yeah.
That was a memory I'll never forget. And, you know, there's so many good memories of Gordon other than alcohol. But, I mean, the guy went down living the life he wanted to live. And he certainly entertained so many people. And he's probably half the reason I ever became part of the business.
Yeah, truly one of the
Yeah,
legends
John-
of the business. Yeah.
John, you have a question for Mr. Blair?
I have a quick one. Yes, I got a quick question. I know with the three of us got together and watched Ric Flair's last match, that whole thing. What did you think of it? Did you watch it, or how did that make you, or what did you think of it, all of it?
Well, I was a little worried for Rick because at 73 years old, you know, the older you get, the more fragile you are. And I was mostly concerned for Rick's health and welfare, his safety. And from what I understand, he had a pretty good match, and it came out well, and I'm happy that it did. And I have yet to see it. It's on my bucket list, but I have not seen it yet. What do you guys think?
Well,
He got busted open pretty good in that match. Yeah, he had he was wearing the crimson mask, and there was some concern from what I read, you know, post match that you know, because he's on medications and he had the heart issues not too long ago, and then he's coming back in the ring, and I was a little nervous for him too. But a lot of people were concerned with the blood loss, and one of the other stories coming out of that was when Flair was done in true Ric Flair fashion, he went straight to the locker room and just wanted to chug a bunch of beer, and the Undertaker stepped in, who was at the event, and shoved Gatorade in his face and said, "No, you're drinking this first." He told him, "You're going to drink that." And one of the few guys that could tell Ric Flair what to do would be the Undertaker, right? But yeah, I guess there was some post-match concern for him. Yeah,
I can understand that, Charlie. And you know, I love Mark. He's a wonderful guy, great human being, and that's just the kind of character he is. You know, because it is important after you bleed like that and sweat like that. You may not realize it, but your body needs hydration really bad. That's the first thing. So that was very smart on Undertaker's part.
absolutely.
I'm glad he did that, very much so.
Yeah,
and you know, Rick lives
so
in the
are
Bay
we.
Area.
Yeah,
Rick's residing in at least part-time here in Tampa on Davis Island. So.
And now he's selling marijuana products, which good for him. If that helps him with any type of pain relief, he's started Ric Flair Drip, where he teamed up with Mike Tyson, and he's now a part of selling edibles and that sort of thing. And hey, God bless him. If that helped relieve any pain that you might be going through, then that's the way to go.
It does. You know, honestly, I do a lot of the CDB products, and it's excellent. It really is. I mean, there's a difference, a big difference in the way I feel. I couldn't probably be talking to you guys right now, except I just did my back with that CDB cream, and it just takes my pain away totally for an hour. I mean, that and ice, and some have to switch Motrin and Tylenol because I can't stand the pain pills. You know, they're just no good, and I know that I'll be taking them soon. When I get sliced back open, I have to have my back completely redone, from L1 and 2 all the way up to T10. So it's nasty.
Well, hey,
I
at
know
least there's
all
something there
about
to
that.
kind of help with the CBD there. Yeah.
I know about that back issue, Mr. Blair. I'm 47 years old and I had 2 back surgeries, and right fusion didn't work. I'm kind of 75% disabled, but I'm going to take it and live with it, because if I have a third surgery, I could be in a wheelchair. And I take care of my wife's disabled, and I have 2 sons and my 85-year-old mother. So I got a lot on my plate that I can't even. I'm just going to deal with it. But that's why I don't like the cold weather anymore, because of the metal in my back. But I hear you.
I understand, Chris, and I hope you have faith, because that's what keeps me going. Honestly, I'm not going to sit here and preach to you, but without the faith that I have in God, I could never make it. And I've had that faith ever since I was a kid. I don't know, it was instilled in me. I remember when my parents took me to Big People's Church for the first time in Gary, Indiana, and I was so excited. And then the sermon was on the power of prayer. And I told you the story already, but I just didn't tell you the beginning, because when the pastor was preaching on the power of prayer, he was saying, God might not answer your prayer tomorrow, today, next week, next year, but eventually, if you keep praying and you're a good person, he's going to answer your prayer. And so when I went home, I thought, well, I couldn't wait to go to bed and go pray. And I started thinking, what am I going to pray for? And thought I'd pray for $1 million, but being 9 or 10 years old, they're going to take that away from me. And I love Corvettes. And I thought, well, I didn't know if I wanted to pray for a red one or a blue one. And I said, I'm going to pray for a red one and a blue one. And I thought, now I can't drive. I'll just have to stare at him. And finally I said, I know, I want to be Superman. So I prayed that prayer to be Superman until the kid, Billy Kempinski, we were walking in the snow. And I remember there was a song, My Green Tambourine, was playing on this boombox he had. I was sharing my prayer with him, and that's when he told me, you can't be Superman, da, da, da. So that's how that story began. So with faith, I, going through the murder trial of my son, I'm in excruciating pain half my life because of, I went and got a back operation, Chris, like you. I had my second one, and I got osteomyelitis, which is, it's a poisoning of the spine, staphylococcus, and it just ate my bones. And I had to have bones taken from my hips, and I wake up crippled. I couldn't walk. So I couldn't move my toes. So after about 6 months, I could walk, and now I'm walking around. It's been, that was July of 2021. I have to, a team of doctors feel like they can correct this 90 to 100%. And
good.
If they can, I'm going to give them a shot. So I'm just waiting.
Well, you're in our thoughts and prayers, Mr. Blair. We're pulling for you, man. Successful surgery and whatever you're dealing with or whatever. We hope you make it through it, man, and as much pain free as possible. And Mr. Blair, what I wanted to ask you about specifically too, going back to your career a little bit. I mentioned WrestleMania 3, and we were talking to Jim Bronzell a few weeks ago about this, your former tag partner, and the finish to your match at WrestleMania 3 with Hacksaw Jim Duggan running in, and even Jesse Ventura on the commentary saying, what are these guys thinking Hacksaw for? He just cost them the match. What did you think of that finish? And it was kind of out of nowhere with Hacksaw interfering, and it kind of messed up the finish. I mean, interfered with the finish there.
I thought it was horrible. I thought it was so poorly planned out. Here we are going on right before Hogan. Crowd's hot. I remember, I still remember, I went up and wanted to see my wife, who was up in the media stands. And when you look down, it was just like a swarm of people. And I knew the ring crew very well, but I couldn't tell who was who. And I was thinking to myself, wow, who would want to be here up in these seats like this? I'd rather be home watching it on TV. But, they do have the big screens that drop down at Pontiac Silverdome.
Right.
And those weren't there at the time. So now it's time for us to go on. I remember a little anecdote. Shane McMahon comes up to me right before we're getting ready to go out. And he says, my sister likes you. And I said, oh, really? I said, Stephanie's like 9, 10 years old. I said, oh, I like her
Right.
too. She's a wonderful girl. And he goes, you got the best body. Your traps are perfect. And all this. I said, okay, Shane, thank you very much. And he still remembers that to this day. But then we hopped on this modified golf cart and a pair of modified underwear. And all of a sudden we go through the curtains and wow. I mean, the electricity, guys, you could have, it was just unbelievable, that feeling. Oh, everybody was so alive, and it's just a sea of people, 93,000 people indoors. Absolutely amazing, incredible, once in a lifetime experience. And to have this kind of on my mind, having this kind of a finish was bothering the heck out of me the whole time. And to begin with, the Sheik and Volkov are the two hardest guys to work with in the world. I love Nikolai to death. And, I've had my ins and outs with Khosrow, but he got mad at me. He got mad at me when I stretched him in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Never forgot about it. But as Nikolai rode him so hard. And anyway, they'd take bumps in 3 stages. I think my back surgery came from lifting those guys so many times because they give you no help. I mean, you'd literally have to, force them up. You go to give Sheik an ass bump. He thought you were going to give him a belly to back. Belly to back suplex or something. And so he's fighting that. And it was just, they get such good heat. It's automatic heat. They sing the Russian anthem with those hated flags, and it's just natural heat, so everything's right there. And every once in a while you could have a really good match with them, but most of the time it's a mediocre match, and that's what you're going to hope to have, the best mediocre match that you could possibly have, because it's not like working with the Heart Foundation.
Right.
It's totally different. And the people were right with us. And then that lame finish, for Khosrow to have the camel clutch on, why wouldn't I make the save? I could have made the save.
Right.
And it was just very poorly planned out, although it did give Hacksaw his break, and at the expense of the Killer Bees. But I love Jim. Jim is a wonderful human being. But it was poorly planned.
And of course, the big main event that followed that, Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, the legendary match there. And, we love to ask questions about any interactions you might have had with Andre the Giant. There's so many legendary stories about that man, drinking 150 beers in one night or something crazy like that. Did you have any Andre stories that stand out?
If you read this book right here, you'll get some of the best ones ever. I promise you. You will.
There it is. I love it.
Until you can't laugh anymore. And I just, Andre and I got along so well. And, I had a 72 powder blue Lincoln Continental, and he loved riding in that car because he fit. It's a big town car. And, back when they were big, and the car ran good. I won't say too many things, but Andre and I were so close that he introduced me to his girlfriend. He had a beautiful girlfriend. She was about 6'3", probably 165 pounds. Can you imagine that? And
right.
And he kind of hid her from all the boys. He didn't want any of the boys to ever know her, except he trusted me so much that he'd always ask me to take him to meet his girlfriend, later, which I would humbly oblige. And just Andre was tremendous. I have his cribbage board right now, and it's oversized cribbage board, which is a card and peg game that you play. I still don't know how to play it, but we even have a tournament at Cauliflower Alley Club. But Bob Orton, he was just there. He came in second or third, I think, but he won the 2 years before, after 5 years of trying. But certain people would play cribbage with Andre. every day. But the board I have, you use shotgun shells. That's how big it is, rather than the little pegs. And we were just close. You know, Frenchie Martin and I, we got to be friends. Who was like Andre's booker or comrade, watched his farm while he was away in the Carolinas, and you guys probably know about that. And Frenchie and I got to be good friends in Florida, and I was introduced to Andre in Florida when I was just breaking in, and we've been friends ever since, and had so many wonderful times together. The Giant was a great guy, was just a wonderful human being. People sometimes would ask the stupidest question. I remember one person coming up and saying, hey, Mr. Giant, are your parents big like you? He'd say, no, boss, my parents are midgets. and he would eat a big breakfast, and that's all he would eat. After that, it was all, you know. And the average Giant lives 33. You can Google it. And Andre was what, 44 when he passed?
44, yeah. Yeah.
So I think he was preserved.
Wow.
I'm not telling anybody to drink, but that's he was just a classic. And when you got him and Dusty together in the same car, oh my gosh, it was just like entertainment like I can't even explain to you guys. I'd sit there driving down the road, and I didn't even want to open my mouth because I didn't have to. It was just story after story after story, and it was like being the biggest fly that was ever on the wall. And I was so excited, and so many memories. And you know, my book started to be over 1,000 pages. And my co-author Ian Douglas, who's very intelligent, just a super guy, salt of the earth, and we whittled it down to 470 pages or something like that. So I have enough material to do Truth Be Told 2. Maybe one of these days I'll get the energy to do it. But something really unique about the book too is a drawing that Bret Hart did, a modern day drawing, because he used to do chalkboard drawings to entertain us, and that was very funny. And I remember Andre coming in one time to one of Bret Hart's drawings and just belly laughing so hard. It was just I love to watch Andre laugh, because it just something about it made you happy.
Yeah, Mr. Blair, we also would like you to...
It's funny, you always hear him refer to people as boss, and he's so big. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, everybody was boss. He called me boss. He called everybody boss. Called Dusty boss.
Yeah, Mr. Blair, we also would like you to talk and promote your comic book.
Oh, yes. We have 3 comic books. Mr. John Crowther helped us, who's another wonderful person, helped us start those, the Killer Bee issues of the comic books. And that was, you know, when you get your own comic book, it's pretty cool. You know, first you get DVDs and action figures, but getting your own comic books pretty cool, especially when they're so well written and illustrated. So yeah, we have those. You could go to the killerbeestore.net, killerbeestore.net, and all that stuff's up there. Very reasonable. And you know, I if somebody buys my book, I give you a double your money back guarantee. If you don't like it, I'll give you 2 times what you paid for it. But I'm going to ask you 3 questions, easy ones, to make sure you read the book. You get 2 out of 3, you get double your money back.
Well, we're definitely
a book I'll be checking out. I'd love to hear those stories. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. For any wrestling fans who want to hear some firsthand details that are not internet polluted, I guess, or internet fuzzy, because everything gets lost in translation, or it gets told a bunch of times, and sometimes people lose the plot of the stories and whatnot. So the firsthand accounts there from Mr. B.Brian Blair in that book. Be sure to check that out. You said it's also available on Amazon as well, correct?
Yes, available on Amazon or at the killerbeestore.net. You can get it personalized at the killerbeestore.net. But you know, uh, I was really humbled because Steve Austin called me about 2 weeks ago, and he said, "Brian, I've been staring at this book with all the colors on it for about 2 months here, and I picked it up." He goes, I'm not much of a reader, I got too much stuff on my plate. But I started reading your book, and I'm on the page 120 something. And he goes, "I have never been so entertained in my life." He goes, "This is absolutely fantastic." 3 days later, he called me up because he says he's a slow reader. He'll get it done within a month, and he'll tell me. 3 days later, he called me up and he goes, "Golly, I can't believe those stories. I can't believe that book." I mean, it was just made me reminisce, and I just laughed so hard, and I laughed and I cried. And he just put it on a pedestal, and I can't thank Steve enough for that. Who I really admire, Steve Austin. Steve and I were in Japan a couple times together, and before he really found himself, and he was always a good athlete. Took care of himself, and everybody respected him. And that's what you had to have in Japan. If you wanted to survive, you had to have respect, because you go to Japan, and unless you're a gimmick, like, I was always in the main events, just about always. And, whether it was with Abdullah the Butcher, or whether it was Orndorff and Big John Studd and I in Hiroshima against Antonio Inoki, Tatsumi Fujinami, and Akira Maeda. Or no, Kido was in that match, where I tore these 2 tendons and had to sew them back because the heat was so strong there. In Japan, I know I'm kind of switching subjects, but I'm trying to get some questions answered here. But in Japan, the audience is nothing like the U.S. They'll sit there and they'll clap, but they don't get riled. They can get riled, but not to the point where they get out of their chairs and, come to the ring. And here we are in Hiroshima, and I got Kido in one corner, and Inoki and Fujinami and Studd and Orndorff are in the other corner, and I'm choking Kido black, and I got the back of his trunks, and all of a sudden people start grabbing my feet, and he gets scared. And as I have him by the tights, he was so afraid, because you don't see that he leaped, and it ripped 2 of my tendons. So they had to sew them to my little tendon. They couldn't find it after they cut way down here. But it was amazing to see that you could actually have a riot with the Japanese fans. That's something that you will very, very seldom see there. A very well-behaved society, especially when you can have a beer machine on every corner in the minors.
Wow.
We could use that around these parts in this country,
No. Yeah.
That'd be a bad idea. I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
Mr. Blair, we are so thrilled to have been able to have talked some old school wrestling with you, with us as fans, and hearing, not only about your career, but and you're not alone in this. Some of the surgeries that you've gone through, because you're putting it on the line for us, the fans, and you can't, we can't tell you how much we appreciate you guys from our childhood all the way up till now. Any wrestlers that are putting on a show, it's just we're so happy to have grown up with it, and we appreciate you guys so much. And the Killer Bees, I still got the LJN figure of the Killer Bees and all that fun stuff, and so it was a thrill for me, and I can speak for these guys as well. I would assume that being able to talk to one and a half of the Killer Bees, as we did last week and now this week, we thank you so much for just taking some time out and hanging out with us and shooting the breeze on some old school wrestling, man. We appreciate it so much.
Well, I appreciate you very much, Charlie and Chris and John. I appreciate being on Falls Count Anywhere, and man, you guys just keep on buzzing and keep the faith, and just don't get stung, man. Hang in there, and hey, I know you're going through some back problems, Chris, but it'll all be good. Just keep that positive attitude. The glass is always half full.
Yep, just one day at a time. Absolutely. Is all I say. Right? That's all we can do.
That's right.
And what a privilege and an honor, and wrestling royalty, Mr. B.Brian Blair. I can't thank you enough myself.
Thank you, guys. God bless you, your families, and your audience. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely, sir. And best of luck to you going forward. All right. Mr. B.Brian Blair, one half of the Killer Bees, joining us. That was great to hear. again, man, like we always say, guys, we could go like 3 or 4 hours with some of these guys just to talk wrestling. We just got to the tip of the
Yeah,
iceberg there.
still so much there, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. We just got
Great
to
to have him,
the
and
top of it
maybe
there.
we'll have him again.
Absolutely, we would love to have him back. Because for us, it's such an honor to be able to talk to these gentlemen and about their careers. Transitioning first, guys, as we start to wrap up here, I want to transition to wrestling going on tonight, which is going to be the Extreme Rules pay-per-view for WWE. If you didn't watch SmackDown last night, there was another promo, these QR codes that are popping up with the White Rabbit and the speculated return of Bray Wyatt. It's got the internet buzzing. I love what Triple H is doing with the internet with the QR codes and keeping people guessing and chatting about it online. It's kind of a new way of storytelling for 2022 with the QR codes and what the clues might be leading to. But last night was the most obvious clue as they were showing this cartoon pig, and a bunch of weird Bray Wyatt stuff going on. But you can clearly hear "Let Me In" the background over and over and over. "Let Me In" was the kind of like the catchphrase of Bray Wyatt. So it looks as if at Extreme Rules tonight, Bray Wyatt will be making his return to WWE, and he's been missed by a lot of people because his character is so likable, and his creativity to what he does with that character is so awesome. Among other things that Triple H has done with bringing back a lot of factions, giving people back their full names. Like Riddle is now Matt Riddle again. Theory is now Austin Theory again, and that sort of thing. So look forward to the pay-per-view tonight. We'll certainly talk about that next week as well.
Yes, and
Well, gentlemen,
John,
we're gonna wrap it up then. I guess we're good.
Well, John has our public service announcement, if you will, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
This week we're going to talk. I got a great number for mental health, and this has to do with anxieties. If you have, depression, those types of things. Maybe you don't feel like getting out of bed. Just things aren't going right. You're having a rough time. These people are there every day, including Christmas. They're there all the time, 24 hours a day. 844-794-3812. Like I said, please call them. You got professionals standing by, free of charge. They will get you in contact with things in your own community if you need, or you can just call them and they'll stay on the phone with you, from what I understand, as long as you need to talk. So if you're having a tough time, it's nighttime, anything's going on, you got some anxieties, fears, call. There's someone there waiting to talk to you. Thank you.
That's great.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, John. And just one last thing too, for any of our viewers that are checking us out on Facebook or YouTube, we're gonna roll that little video at the end there. But we thank each and every one of you for checking us out. And please feel free to leave any comments, whether it's bad or good. We could take it. We got into this to have some fun with wrestling, and if there's any things you want us to talk about more or anything we might be missing, please feel free to give us some feedback. We can take it. It's all good, and positive feedback is always welcome as well. So, but gentlemen, another great show as always, and of course we'll be continuing next week as well. But yeah, enjoy the pay-per-view tonight, and we'll kind of pick it up from there, guys.
Yes, and many more great guests to come in the next coming weeks. So definitely stay tuned to us here on Facebook at Falls Count Anywhere. Our Twitter is at Count Anywhere. On Spotify, Falls Count Anywhere. And of course, John brought up our YouTube channel, Friends with the Z Media Network. All of our shows are on there. So definitely please check us out. We greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you next week.
Absolutely.
Thank you for watching. If you liked our video, then click the like button below and the subscribe button to be notified when a new video is uploaded. Here are some of our other videos. Remember to leave a comment below.
Yeah, it was.